What's up guys, welcome back to another Bungie Mail Sack breakdown. What sounds like the final one actually, because the Bungie Mail Sack series is coming to an end, giving way to the Bungie Weekly Updates return. Now of course I will be breaking those down every week just the same as these. There will be no difference in like weekly content creation, and in general they should actually be quite a bit more interesting than these, so I hope you guys will enjoy them. Anyways, let's get into it. Deej put a number of interesting things into the introduction once again, starting with builds stabilized and strengthened. Playtest transformed mere mortals into gods. Devil Walkers discovered new ways to express their inner pain. Character models became softer and harder in all the right ways. Get your mind out of the gutter. Cities rose from the dunes. Water flowed through lush jungles. Compressed air was introduced to a water and cornstarch concoction to create an unnatural sound. The Cabal secured a new, nastier place to call home. Weapons were given healthier upgrades, and as always, a brave army of testers watched our every move. So of course, a number of interesting hints there. Devil Walkers discovering a new way to express their inner pain. I'm guessing that means new ways to show their damage, perhaps via sound effects, visual effects, new animations, I'm really not sure. And then character models becoming softer and harder. I'm not exactly sure what that might mean, but I mean the first thing that comes to mind would be like softer could mean skin and maybe cloth, and then harder would be the armor? I don't really know. And then cities rose from the dunes. I imagine that must be on Mars. They probably implemented a new city. After that, water flowed through lush jungles. I'm sure that's on Venus. And then compressed air being introduced into a water and cornstarch mix. That's obviously something the audio team was doing to get an interesting sound effect. I'm not really sure exactly what that would sound like. First thing I thought it would be like a bubbling sound effect, but if it's compressed air at high pressure then it wouldn't really bubble, it would kind of jet through, so I'm not sure what that would sound like or what they would use it for, but it's definitely interesting. And then the final really interesting one, the Cabal secured a new, nastier place to call home. Whether that just means a new Cabal-occupied dungeon, or like they actually changed the main HQ home base of the Cabal, I really don't know. And then the rest there is pretty self-explanatory, I can't really add anything. Moving on, he says, what if we could investigate further into every one of those details, and truly know the minds of the people wrestling with those beasts? That would be fun, wouldn't it? We should really think about something like a serialized, informal briefing that dives deeper into these dangerous waters in which we swim. Not sure what we'd call that though. It'll have to wait for later anyway. Next week perhaps. Today we open the sack. So that was of course all hinting towards the reintroduction of the Bungie Weekly Updates next week, and the first paragraph there was kind of a taste of what we might expect every week, except going into a lot more detail. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Now getting into the actual sack, Sunburned Goose said, "You've released some sweet videos lately. Any chance we could get some wallpapers that depict the new details that were on display?" Deej says, "Sure, how about a shoddy to keep you warm at night?" And then he embedded this image from the Destiny community thank you video. You can get this in full resolution by simply going to the mail sack, link is always below, and then clicking on the image. Before we go any further, I'd just like to mention that we may as well name this the mail sack of wallpapers, as I think there's 4 or 5 of them as we go along here. So if you're looking for a new desktop background, there's definitely a bunch to choose from. The next question comes from Apex, who says, "I couldn't help but overhear that once you run out of your primary ammunition, the only way to get more is to respawn. Seems like ammo is a very important component in competitive matches. How does ammunition alter the gameplay, and how can I make sure my guns are being fed a steady supply of bullets?" Deej replies, "It sounds like you're referencing the podcast we released this week, in which we talked about ammunition as the carrot you'll chase around the battlefield. If that's the case, you heard us only partially right. I offered up the fact that getting killed was my favorite means of replenishing my primary ammo. It's certainly not the only way." So if anyone was confused by what Deej said there in the podcast, there's your answer. And then continuing on, he said, "What you did hear right is that ammo is important. As you said, it's very important. We'll let you bring any weapon in your arsenal to the battlefield that will rage in competitive multiplayer. To be able to shoot it, you'll need to load it, and that will require you to control some key locations." So this was all talked about in a decent amount of detail in the podcast, and if any of you happen to have missed my breakdown or overview of the podcast, make sure you go check it out. I put a lot of work into that video and it has a lot of great info in it. It'll be linked in the outro at the end, or you can just go find it on my channel, but definitely check that out if you've missed it. Moving on here, Pony says, "That wallpaper was awesome. How about another?" Deej of course answered, "Alright, we're in a giving mood. Here's some space magic to brighten up your Friday." And then of course he embedded this space magic wallpaper here, which looks pretty badass. You can get this just like the other one by going to the full mail sack and clicking on it. And that goes for all the rest of the wallpapers in the mail sack here as we go along, just like this next one where Booster says, "I heard you were passing out wallpapers. Can we see a spacefaring vessel?" Deej says, "You heard right. We're launching this one right into your face." And this one looks pretty awesome. I think it's actually my favorite one. I'm using it as my wallpaper right this second. Continuing on, Locomotive asks, "Where was the ship in the last wallpaper headed?" And Deej replies, "Any number of places where danger lurks and secrets lie, waiting to be discovered." Then embedding this image from Venus, which I think looks pretty badass as well. Moving on, this one I actually already mentioned briefly in my last video where I talked about some new info on the Destiny beta, but we'll go over it again real quick. Halo asked, "Will there be different pre-order bonuses for Destiny?" Deej says, "There most certainly will be. We'll tell you all about them before you even have the chance to ask us again." So that's pretty awesome to hear. It sounds like we'll be getting details on all of Destiny's pre-order bonuses quite soon, and I'm personally hoping that we'll also see the Destiny special editions at the same time. Now my previous video talking about the Destiny beta was actually about the beta potentially being a pre-order bonus, so it could link into this as well, and if it is true and the beta is a pre-order bonus, then I imagine we'll hear about it at the same time sometime quite soon, so that's all very exciting. Also, if you missed that video, make sure you check that one out too. After that, Utopia Unknown asks, "How about a wallpaper that depicts a place where we'll fight?" Deej replies, "Enjoy this nice view from the rooftops of Mars." Once again, embedding a pretty awesome screenshot for wallpaper use. And finally, Jack asks, "Will the Bungie Weekly Update ever return? 'Twas the ultimate way to end a long week." Deej replies, "It's my pleasure to bend to popular demand for the second time in 1 week. First, we revived the Bungie podcast. Next, we'll unseal the Hush casket and put the Bungie Weekly Update back into service. The mail sack has had a good run. We've brought you along on a march that has taken us through a valley of darkness. The more we indulge in these Q&As, the more we seem to talk about Destiny. With a brighter light shining on this creation, we felt it was time to be more official about giving you updates." So there we go, that's about as good of confirmation as we're ever going to get from Deej, that the Bungie Weekly Update is coming back next week, and that this is the final mail sack. He does add though, if you're a fan of the mail sack, have no fear. Bungie isn't about to stop listening to you. We never have. If you've been here for the duration of this postal campaign, we thank you for keeping us company while we've been at work. If you joined us in progress, we'll only pick up speed from here on out. After that, he embeds another wallpaper, this time of the Hive, before closing out with, "That's it for this week. Next, you may want to turn your gaze to the stars. We've been busy. Stay tuned." So it sounds like we might be getting some pretty exciting stuff next week. I imagine that details on the pre-order bonuses and possibly the beta, as well as the Bungie Weekly Update, are among them. I will of course be keeping you guys up to date as soon as they release anything, so stay tuned to the channel. And it's with that I have to say that's it for this week's Bungie Mail Sack breakdown for the final time, which feels quite weird. This is a series I've been doing almost since the start of my channel. I think my second video on the channel was a Bungie Mail Sack breakdown, and then when things got moving, I did them every single week up until now, so this definitely feels quite weird. It feels like part of my weekly routine is being like ripped out. But the void will be filled with the Bungie Weekly Update, which I think will more than suffice. I'm very excited to be getting back to those, so I hope you guys will enjoy my breakdowns of those every week in place of these. And with that, thank you very much for watching my final Bungie Mail Sack breakdown. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next update.